11 years since Honda developed the first DCT gearbox for the VFR 1200F. How does this DCT gearbox works in the real life? It is time to find out everything about it. The DCT gearbox has the following modes. We have the drive mode, and now the bike is in the drive mode. In the drive mode, as you will see later, the gears are shifted quite fast, around 2000 RPMs. The next ones are the Sport 1 mode, which can be adjusted to Sport 1, Sport 2 and Sport 3. The adjustment can be done to change the Sport 1, Sport 2 and Sport 3 by long pressing this button, and the modes are changed in this way. By pressing this button you can shift between Sport 1 and Sport 3. Also, when it comes to the safety, now we are in the first gear and we're trying to leave down the central stand. Check out. The bike automatically stops. The bike, not only that it will stop, but it will also disengage and enter in the neutral position. So now it stopped and then entered in the neutral position from the first gear. Another safety measure for the DCT gearbox is when you stop your bike in the first gear and then you start it again. After you start it again, the bike automatically switches to neutral position. So as you will see now, you hear a click, and that click was disengaging the first gear and entering in the neutral position. When the side stand is on, you cannot change the gears due to the safety reasons. As you can see, nothing happens here. So basically, this is one of the safety measures. Just a small tip for a smoother upshifting is to have the proper drive chain slack. So maybe you can take a look at your drive chain slack adjustment, and when this is properly adjusted, you're gonna have a very smoothly upshifting. Let me give you another tip. When you start a bike, on a central stand this time. You place it in the first gear. The rear wheel, it starts spinning. Okay, so the rear wheel is spinning, and now what you want to do, let's say you want to go on the bike and you want to go back in the neutral. You go here and you place the neutral, and you see that, oh my god, what's happening? The bike doesn't go back to neutral. It doesn't go back to neutral because the rear wheel is still spinning. So what you can do is basically stop the rear wheel from spinning and then put it in the neutral back again. You can stop the rear wheel spinning easily with the provided handbrake. Because this is a DCT version, it has its own handbrake system. You can see it here. You can pull and basically you engage the handbrake. The handbrake has its own caliper and brake pads separately from the main rear brake. Some people ask about the sound of the DCT gearbox. Is it loud? How does it shift? What is exactly the sound when you shift the gears? First of all, when you engage in the first gear, the sound is basically the same as a normal bike. The sound of gear shifting at a DCT gearbox depends quite a lot of many factors, like the drive chain slack, and it depends also on the revs you have on that moment when you shift the gear. You can change also from the dashboard menu the revs when you would like the gears to be shifted. I will put a link in the description, and also you can see my dashboard video on the upper corner of the screen. So far I didn't have any issues with the DCT gearbox after 38,000 kilometers. To have the DCT option on this bike, it will cost you an additional 1,000 euro. Now let's start the bike and see how the gear shifting is actually working on a DCT version. Now that the bike is engaged, you don't have to worry that it will stall. So basically you're safe and good to go. A lot of people are asking how smooth is actually the DCT gearbox. How smooth, how slow can you go with it? So you can see now that I'm actually able to go very slow, 2-3 kilometers per hour. Even I can make some maneuvers with the bike almost stopped. So as long as you accelerate, now being in the drive mode, that changes very fast. You will very fast reach the second gear. The downshifting, it's also done automatically, as you can see. Second gear, and now the first gear. It's also a discussion how you can intervene during this drive modes. So basically in the drive mode you can easily downshift anytime. As you can see here, I'm second gear and now I'm basically downshifting at any moment without any problem. Also, what about the upshifting? Can I upshift by myself independently? In the drive mode, of course you can. And actually, but at a certain point you cannot upshift so fast as you do it in a manually mode. So basically you can upshift, let's say in the first gear, let's upshift. Okay, I upshift, but not so fast. Basically the DCT doesn't allow me to upshift when I'm in a drive mode so fast as I exactly want. I have to accelerate a little bit more and be able to upshift as I want. This is in the drive mode. But normally you can upshift when you accelerate. When you combine acceleration and upshifting, doesn't matter in which drive mode you are, the upshifting gets done very fast. So it's almost like in the manual mode. The drive mode, it's one of the most economical modes which you can use on this bike. Basically, when you are outside the city and you just want to ride easily, the drive mode will upshift around 2000 RPMs and your ride will be very smooth. And as you can see, we have 47 kilometers per hour and we are in the fourth gear, which is unbelievable actually. Fifth gear, 50 kilometers per hour. So basically the drive mode, it's It's for people which are just want to enjoy the landscape and also make some fuel economy. Another tip which I would like to give you, when you ride in the drive mode, it's better that you have the drive chain slack properly adjusted, because otherwise it will give you some vibrations and you have the feeling that you're riding a chopper or another bike, because it gives you a lot of vibrations on the rear wheel and on the chain. So basically, when you're driving in the drive mode, be sure that your chain is properly adjusted. Now let's speak a little bit about the sport modes: Sport 1, Sport 2 and Sport 3. The gear shifting, it's done about 2500 RPMs, and usually this increases as much as you twist the throttle. You accelerate normally and it shifts around 2500 RPMs in the Sport 1 mode. The same will be for the Sport 2 and Sport 3 modes. Basically, the time when the gears are shifting, it's increasing. The revs are increasing when the gears are shifting. But when you twist the throttle, it basically doesn't matter in which gear mode you are, because it shifts very high at 4500, 6000 RPMs depending on your revs. But what I like the most, I have to admit, it's the manual mode. I use it in the city and also on the twisty roads. You can upshift, downshift anytime with no barrier, except the moment when you start the bike and the bike is very cold. It has a short delay upshifting to the second gear. But on the twisty roads, and I have to say that the gearbox is very efficient when using the engine brake. Basically, you can easily, I can consider also like a safety measure when braking. It's very easy to downshift. Just on a click of a button, you can downshift and control the bike much better on the turns. You have much more control on the bike basically, and you can focus on the landscape, you can focus on the road, and enjoy more riding a motorcycle after all. A lot of people are complaining that the bike shifts very fast in the corners. But what they don't realize is that you have to twist the throttle in the corners in order to have the bike not shift or upshift faster than you expect. So basically, you can control everything from the throttle, and the DCT gearbox is reacting accordingly to what you are twisting. We can try this with the drive mode. Downshift and then accelerate. So basically, second gear, we accelerate, and look, it changes around 6000 RPMs. So you don't have to worry that the bike is shifting too fast in the corners. You can control how fast the bike will shift in the corners by twisting the throttle. Of course, when you don't twist the throttle and you leave it by yourself in the corners, Check out third gear, fourth gear, it changes it very fast. So you don't expect the bike to not to change in the turns when you don't accelerate. So you take the turn, look, you accelerate a little bit, and then the bike shifts fourth gear, fifth gear. So when you accelerate, the bike delays, of course, this upshifting. Because you've asked me so many times, I can tell you how I use the gear shifting, the DCT gearbox, the speed, the modes. Basically, when I go out of the city, I use the Sport 1 mode, but all the time before the turns, I use the manual mode. I downshift before the turns, and then accelerate and try to make my own style. So you can create your own style of riding with the DCT gearbox. In the city, in my opinion, I don't recommend using any of the modes except the manual mode. It will give you a much better flow, a much better drive. So yeah, it's up to you. It's depending on your style, on how you ride, your riding style. Also, when I'm in Sport 1 mode or Sport 2, or doesn't matter, and I accelerate, I like to shift the gears very fast to reach in the sixth gear as fast as possible. It cannot always happen. For example, when you put the mode to manual and then put it to S1, sometimes you can upshift much faster. But look, I'm pressing and nothing happens. You can easily control it. When we have much more twisty roads, then you basically need the manual mode, because yeah, the turns are too tight, the shifting it's producing much faster, so you need to react much faster, and in the manual mode you basically can react very fast. Another interesting thing is that, for example, we are in Sport 3 mode and we want to change back to Sport 2 mode, and we are accelerating in the same time. Changing is not possible. You can change only between the modes, between drive and sport mode, but when you accelerate, you cannot change to Sport 2, for example, even though you are pressing, but you are accelerating. The only way to get back to Sport 2, for example, is to lift back the throttle and press to Sport 1 and Sport 2. So you have to decelerate or take your hands from the acceleration and use again the button to get back in your drive mode.
The Honda bikes currently available with DCT transmissions include the Africa Twin Adventure Sport, NC750X, NC750S, VFR 1200X, Integra, and of course the legendary Gullwing Tour. Honda offering such a wide cross-section of bikes with DCT transmissions shows how much it believes in the technology, but it also shows that DCT can be useful and desirable in all sorts of different environments and for many different types of riding. Let's just go straight up to the conclusions and try to resume what we have discussed today.
I know what you're thinking, that the DCT gearbox, it's only for beginners, for people which are actually not real motorcyclists. The real motorcyclists are not using the DCT gearbox. To be a real motorcyclist, you need to have a regular gearbox. The DCT, it's for beginners, it's for people which are actually older. I've pushed a lot this gearbox during its almost 40,000 kilometers in the city traffic, outside the city. I was exploiting the DCT quite a lot, the gearbox, and so far I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I'm not saying that this gearbox is bulletproof, that it cannot break, but the way it handles so far give me a lot of confidence for the next 40, 50, 100,000 kilometers. Do you need a lean sensor in order for the gearbox not to change so fast in the corners? I don't think so. You can easily manage, like I showed you before, with a throttle. This gearbox, it's more than 10 years on the market, and it has been proved with a lot of positive feedbacks from the owners, including myself over here. So I can highly recommend it. If you have the possibility to choose between a manual and a DCT gearbox, I highly recommend the DCT gearbox. In my opinion, it's more efficient. It makes your life much easier. It makes your riding life quite easy on a normal riding day, on a normal riding conditions. I strongly believe in the DCT gearbox's future from now on. I strongly believe that it will be even more evolved, and the technology will develop in the next years. And this is only in our benefit as riders. I'm very interested in your feedback regarding the DCT gearbox. If you use it, if you exploit it, how was it in your case? Are you happy with it? Did you have any issues with it, any problems that you can mention? Please use the comment section, and I'm really curious to find out your experience with the DCT gearbox.